Now, a report recently came out that says that children of migrants, talking about mainly people from the Asian community, do really well at school. They do much better than people who don't belong to the Asian community. And that's often the case whenever you look at GCSE results. You often see, Sandhu and Singh and Parmar as, people who have really topped and done really well. I have four people here from the financial services industry, the kind of jobs that people would kill for, right? I mean, y'all do some really good work, and or at least y'all claim to. At least some of y'all claim to do some really good work, and it's the kind of jobs that you get to only after you've had a really good education. Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
Yeah,
I think
that's fair to say.
I think that's one of the requirements of the job to to be well educated.
Okay. And that's why I want to ask all of you that, tell me, your own experiences when you all were all studying at school, was it the Asian kids who did really well? Does that stereotype still apply?
So when I joined the school, I was the only Asian kid, because I'm from the north of England, so it's, there are a few Asians there.
Yeah.
But even though there were few Asian kids, among even the non-Asian kids, it was generally recognized that if you were Asian, you actually did well. Even though I didn't know many Asian people, I think it was just looking around the surroundings, looking at TV, movies.
It just comes with the territory. If you're Asian, you're just going to top. You're Asian.
If you're an Asian, you're a doctor, is basically what they thought. So they ultimately assumed I was clever, and I think that also gives you an additional boost to be clever, because you have to, reach the potential that they think you're capable of.
Yeah, it's a kind of added pressure, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Tell me, what about you, sir? I mean, when you were studying at school, were you topping the class all the time?
Oh, I wouldn't say topping, but I was also one of the only Asian kids in school.
Oh, really?
But I think it's the work ethic, really, of the Asian parents, particularly who have come from East Africa. My parents are from East Africa.
Yeah.
They've gone through a lot of hardship.
When you say work ethic, what do you mean? I mean, does it mean extra hours spent kind of burning the midnight oil just to make sure that you do really well in your exams? Or, I mean, how does it apply to when you're a student?
I think the mindset in general of the kind of Asian parents who've come over, like I said, from East Africa, their mindset of work and hard work and appreciating the value of money is really there. And actually that filters through into your study and your education, the value of time. So, for example, a lot of the other kids used to go out and play out and, do lots of other stuff.
But Asian kids are generally expected to do really well at school and then take part in football, cricket, tennis, and debating and all the other things that are possibly available, and top at everything, right?
Well, I think there's a sense of priority, and my family's sense of priority was definitely education and sports second. Yeah. Now, I took part in lots of sports. I was a keen cricketer. I played lots of badminton, so that was also there. Yeah. But it was the strong work ethic in terms of education, that firm foundation that was drilled in to me from a very young age.
Okay. And tell me now, none of you are at school. You're all studying. Do you carry this work ethic into the workplace as well? Do you see that you work much harder than people who don't belong to the Asian community, or is that not a fair generalization?
I don't think it's entirely generalized. I think Asians definitely do carry that work ethic, but there's a lot more at work, instead of just hard working, that really gets you, moving and into places.
At your workplace, are you one of the most hardworking people? I mean, of course you are. There's no. What's that?
She's one of the most good looking.
Oh, of course. Who can disagree with that? But coming back to the point on hard work, I mean, do you think is that the case? You think?
Well, to be honest, I do. I've worked really hard, but there are definitely.
Do you see other Asian people at your workplace also, beavering away and putting in those hours? Yeah, beavering away and putting in those extra hours.
Yeah, I think it's everyone has to put in the work hours, and when you see someone else, Asian or not, putting in the work hours, you feel like you have to do the same, and that drives you to do better, basically.
And that's something that you learned at school, right?
That's something you've learned all your life, including school.
So we're work colleagues.
So
I know
exactly what he does.
Very good. There you go. And tell me, ma'am, I mean, is it true? I mean, your own experience as studying at school, you kind of were asked to be, the top of your class every year.
So I didn't grow up in the UK. I'm from South Africa. So I grew up in an Asian community, an Indian South African community.
Reflect for me, even in South Africa, is that the case? The Indian kids do really well?
They do, yes. And I think even though people...
It's a global thing, huh? It's a global thing. Wherever you have... Wherever you have Indian kids, they always outperform the rest. Huh?
I mean, even if they may not have the opportunity to go to the most private and the best schools, even the Indians who go to the public schools, you will still see them like topping the class.
The top echelons of banks, for example, or other top multinationals, other big businesses, you don't usually see many Asian people. At the top management level, I mean, the people who really kind of call the shots. Why is that? I'm going to ask you.
I think it's probably down to kind of culture. A lot of the city jobs, there is a sense of that old boys club.
Do you think that still exists?
I think it's dying out, but it still very much exists. And I think we'll definitely see in the next few years more and more Asians coming to the forefront of leading companies. Do
you think that'll happen? Are you an optimist, or do you think that actually that's going to take very, very long?
No, I think it will happen. I think it will take time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But we've got to understand that we are, a lot of us are first generation, second generation migrants in this country. So probability is against us if we use that as a metric in terms of the Indian people who are board members. It's obviously not going to be stacked in our favour.
You ask a banker and he starts telling you about metric and things like that, But tell me, ma'am, I mean, especially also women, I mean, an Asian woman as the CEO of a top bank, you don't see that in the UK. Why is that?
Well, I'm actually from Australia, so I'm going to do a little contrast between Australia and UK. Australia, the Asian community in Australia is quite young, so it's first generation, and you definitely do not see Asians at top positions at all. Don't really know the reason for that, but I think it's a lot to do with the Asians are still sort of blending into the whole community, and they're still sort of finding their feet. In that
surviving.
Exactly. Whereas when you come to the UK, it's actually a lot more developed. There's actually so many Indians in high profile jobs, banking, lawyers, accountants, consultants, politics. So you do see a lot of that, but and you do see, so we've got
basically the head of our department responsible for, I think, 7,000 people. He's an Asian. He's an Indian Asian. So I think it comes back to the probability as well. The probability that an Asian is going to make it today at the top position will be less because he wasn't here. Maybe he wasn't here 30 years ago, only recently. But I think we're
30 years hence, you think? Do you think there'll be many more people at really top positions?
I think we are at a position of generational change. I think it's all part of globalization of people headhunting people from around the world. So I think that will lead to an influx, and that will lead to role models in the top places. And with these role models, more people will aspire to do better. So I think that's what was lacking previously, which is
so quite a bit of hope here on this panel. Tell me, are you as hopeful as all of your colleagues?
I think what he said was right about the generational change. I know that women in general, your initial question was about women, they tend to, I think, kind of peak off at a certain level because they want to start families, and I think that's a bit more prominent in the Asian society. And with the generational change, I'm sure we may not consider doing the same thing, although families is important, but I think that our mindsets are a bit different now, so I do think that it will change.
I've heard this repeated over and over again, and it's a part of cocktail conversation. Why is it that Asian people don't take part in politics? In 2010, when elections took place in this country, out of 530 MPs who were elected to the House of Commons, less than 30 were from ethnic minority backgrounds. We're delighted to be joined by Lord Popat. Tell me, Lord Popat, why is this? I mean, do Asian people not like politics?
I think that's not the case, in fact. I think the fault lies with the political parties, that they were not engaging enough with the Asian community. But that was true about 12 months ago. If you look at now, we have a large number of Asians who come forward to become PPCs and councillors.
And what about, when people say that it's fault with the political parties, oftentimes the next response is that, listen, we're doing a lot to get Asian people elected. But if you look at this a little bit more in detail, you usually find that Asian candidates are usually put in, fight elections from seats that are unwinnable.
Not necessarily. We've got Rishi Sunak now, who's got a very good seat. He's going to fight for a Hindu guy who's going to fight for the Conservatives for William Hague's seat, one of the safest seats in the country.
Yeah.
So there you are, Rishi has got a good opposition to fight this seat. We've got quite few PPCs of British Indian background, British-born Indians.
Tell me, I mean, as an Asian and as a woman, is it really tough to break into politics in the UK?
I think that, you know, since I've been doing the job, it's been about a year. And increasingly, whenever I'm out and about, there are people saying, okay, you know, I'm really interested, I just don't know how to get involved. Or, you know, it's not something that I was told that I could actually be a part of. So, you know, when I studied PP at university, for example, a typical route in, apparently, there weren't that many Asians. And now I look at kind of people coming and they say, you know, I want to study PPE, I'm interested in politics, I'm interested in government. And I think parents are more like, actually, you know, that's something you can go and do.
But why have your footsteps, somebody like yourself, who's, you know, been out there, been very successful, why have your footsteps not entered Parliament?
That's very kind of you to say so. I think one of the fundamental reasons why I haven't entered politics to date, and I say to date for a reason, is because there are too many career politicians. If you take Lord Boppert, for example, he was an industry in enterprise for a very long time, succeeded as a British Ugandan in this country, and all good politicians, I feel, should understand the economy, should be in business or any other field, whether it's health or whatever it is, before they enter politics. I don't think you're able to get a vote unless you understand the country that you're living in, understand the mechanisms by which the country operates in, and understands the four walls in which the cabinet and parliamentarians work. And I think for me that's a fundamental issue. But I have every intention of joining the political arena, but I have a few years to go.
Superb. That's a news point for us. So we'll catch up in a few years from now. Do you think younger people are disillusioned with politics? Have you heard this before?
It's very difficult to say. If you look at Scotland, 71% of age group of 16 to 18 voted. Can you imagine? Yeah. And they voted for yes.
But in the general elections, that number is really low. It's abysmally low. Yeah. Well, why is that?
I think this is a problem with British Indian community as a whole. We don't go and vote. Yeah. And I would notice where there's heavy concentration of Hindus leaving or Sikhs leaving, the number of people who come out, the turnout is very, very low for some reason. You know, they're not used to voting. Remember, their parents came from India when there was no election in 40s. I mean, people like me who came from Uganda, or a lot of people who came from East Africa, we had no right to vote. Yeah. This is a privilege this country gives, and never waste your vote, by the way.
Okay, that's a really important point. Why do you think traditionally there has been this sort of feeling that, you know, gosh, politics is not for us, you know, and even among your peer group, I mean, do you usually find a lot of people saying that, hey, you know, I want to go out there, make a big difference in the world, I want to join politics? Do you hear that often?
I think that young people who want to make a difference tend to indulge in seva or service, just selfless service. But of course, politics is also a form of service, and I think that's something that hasn't come across to the average young person. So I think that's something that needs to be relayed to them.
Prime Minister David Cameron said that in his lifetime, he's sure that he'll see an Asian person enter 10 Downing Street. Are you as hopeful as the Prime Minister?
Well, my party was the first party to have a Jewish Prime Minister in Disraeli. My party was the first party to have a woman Prime Minister in Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. My party was the first party to have a Brixton bus driver as Prime Minister John Major. Yeah. So why not a British Indian to be the first Prime Minister of this country as well? I'm sure we'll eventually have one.
Because Lord Poppert, a lot of people, you know, this is with due respect, a lot of people say that actually it's much harder in the Conservative Party, and we don't have anybody from Labour to defend, you know, Labour's record on this. A lot of people say that it's the party of posh boys from posh schools who sort of make it to the top, and the rest just don't get a chance. Is that true?
I don't think that's as much true as you say. But remember, the large number of British Indian community are highly educated. They do come from that posh background, so they do come forward to become member of parliament. That would be very good. But we had different people coming from different backgrounds who become members of parliament. And this party now engages more with the British Indian community because of our values are similar to that of our party.
There you go. That's turning the whole argument on its head, which is really interesting. That, you know, if you think posh boys do well in the Conservative Party, a lot of British Asians are posh. I mean, tell me, is that something that you find in the Conservative Party?
I'm not posh, and I'm a Conservative, so, you know, I disprove the theory right there. I mean, it's interesting you're saying, you know, I think that people of my generation, I'm second generation, born and brought up here, there's nothing that, no one's ever told me I can't do something. You know, you've got Nishma who's, you know, at the top of Deloitte, people in that room are at the top of their game. Why not in politics? You know, I really think there's a new confidence that's coming through. You know, we're not told that we can't do it, so why won't we try?
And do you think that sort of class barrier still exists, where people say that if you're from a working class background, an immigrant background, it's usually very hard to break that?
So I really don't think so, only because if you've got a hard work ethic, my dad grew up in literally a slum in Borivali, went to the best university, came here and educated me. If you can do that, what can't I do over here? You know, and I think that kind of aspiration and hard work, you know, you shouldn't let the fact that you're an immigrant or, you know, you're working class or whatever hold you back.
Lord Popat, if somebody is watching this and they're a young, bright, young people who are watching this segment, if they want to get into politics, should they come and meet you?
Certainly, by all means, they're welcome to meet us. Whatever their political ideology, we'll be very happy to sort of, you know, mentor them, help them out, and give them a start for a new career.
Yeah, Lord Popat, you have to be prepared for a lot of emails. I'm warning you.
No problem.